ברוכים הבאים לכולם מירושלים. The new episode of Israelities Podcast, live from Jerusalem.
Shalom lekulam. I'm Stefano here from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for watching and following our podcast. I remember the title Israelities. We are trying to catch and to tell you the realities here in Israel. Thank you for your subscription on our YouTube page and channel. And also I remind all of you that we are on Instagram, Israelity Podcast. Please follow us for more information about what we are doing here, not just for the podcast in general. But today we are here in Jerusalem in our studio for a brand new episode of our podcast. And guess what? An amazing guest today. We have Pastor Veikko here. Pastor Veikko, welcome.
Thank you. So amazing. Yeah. It's amazing to be here.
It's so good to have you here. Now, we know that you are wearing so many different hats and you have so many responsibilities over here, and we will go little by little, leat, into your life. But my first question for you is, would you like to share a little bit of your background and how you came here in Jerusalem, in Israel?
Wow. You know, I'm 59 years old and...
you look younger.
Thank you. So that's an encouragement. And I'm here with my wife, Ulla, who works also at King of Kings. We work together. And then we have 4 children that are all grown-ups, and only one of them lives here with his family, Ville, here in the land. And we don't have Jewish background, but so no Jewish ancestors. But we have Jewish descendant because our son is married to a Jewish lady, Yasmin. So we've been drafted in so many ways. But the background, you know, we came here 25 years ago, and we came from Finland. And before we moved here, I counted I had 50 entry stamps on my passport to Israel before we moved here. So we were here a lot before that as well. And my father had a ministry among the Jewish people in Soviet Union, in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and Israel. So we made a lot of trips with my father here, bringing humanitarian aid and bringing prayer groups in here and so forth. And personally, I worked also as a pastor 3 years before we moved here in a 500-member congregation in Finland, and then I also had a business in Finland that was a sound audiovisual rental.
You're born and raised in Finland, right?
Yeah, although, you know, almost half of my life here in Israel. The racing continues.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's the basic background. Yeah.
And what motivated you and Ulla to leave Finland and to come here in Jerusalem 25 years ago?
You know, like I said, we had been here, or I had been here 50 times. My wife maybe 25, 30 times. And 25 years ago, this country was very different to what it is today. And we hated the idea to come here, to move here. Don't tell anybody. But we hated the idea. And because we saw how, you could say, barren this land was 25 years ago. And if for our living standards, it would have been a big downgrade to come here, and you know, I remember we talked with my wife, like we always prayed, like, Lord, wherever it is, you lead us. You know, we give you the steering wheel of our lives, and like many people pray that prayer. I hope I hope you do that. As we did do that, and but at the same time, it was almost like, but not Israel. Anywhere else, but not Israel. So I remember it so clearly that it was so negative about Israel, although we worked, in Israel and with the Jews all the time, and I think, it was much of my father's vision that I was helping him to fulfill in honoring my parents, kind of a deal, rather than a personal vision. And then one day after my father passed away, I mentioned to my wife that I've got this strange thought, a desire to move to Israel. And what's wrong with me? I don't understand, because I know it's not me. Like something has changed. And my wife said that she feels exactly the same, and we couldn't understand. So those prayers of being available for God had changed our heart's desires to something that naturally we were leaning against.
And most of the time, this is the assurance that God is in this decision, is exactly when you don't want to go, when the place you are supposed to go is not an upgrade, but a downgrade, that you may assess there must be God in it that is changing my desires and coming to Jerusalem. But how did you come here? I heard stories that it was quite an interesting journey for you from Finland to come here in Jerusalem. To take a flight? Did you drive? What was the story?
Yeah, we counted like there was 7 miracles that took place in terms of us coming here, and one of them was a support. You can't come here without money.
Correct.
And in many cases, at least on those years, you had to find support from the country you came from, and so unanimously, our elder board from the congregation, from the church that we came from, sent us here, and it was always like, yeah, we want you to go. And I was like, should I take this as an offense or as a confirmation? I don't know.
Get rid of you.
But that was one. And the second thing, that they allowed us to send a fundraising letter, and we sent it to everybody we knew. And it was just a simple 1-page letter with a little card. And we asked that you all know us, and we feel like God is really doing something in our lives and wanting us to move to Israel, at least for a year for now. And we sent that out to everyone we knew, plus my father's ministry addresses that he had. And I remember the letters started arriving back, and we got about 150 families saying they want to support us financially and with prayer. And the letters kept coming. Like, I remember there was a day, I think over 20 letters came on mail on one single day. And there was like that one letter fixed our whole support. Just like that. It was amazing, like how God did that. And then when we came here, I'll tell you about the trip in a second. But when we came here, another miracle was this, that I came here, a person without knowing me, we had no previous contact, came to me and said that, I've heard from someone that you are moving here and I have a home for you. I went to see the home. It only had 2 bedrooms. And I said that we are a family of 6. Then he said that, okay, I understand now. He was not a realtor, but he said that there's someone else whose house is for you, and I'll show you the person. And that whole thing, like God arranged, I didn't do anything. I didn't look for one apartment, and we found like that our apartment here to rent. And so, when you walk, you feel like you walk in those exact pre-made steps that He's done for you to walk in, and we felt like we are walking a dream. So we still today are 100% sure that that it was the Lord, it was God who led us come here, and He's confirmed, the process in so many ways afterwards. But we actually, we drove here by car from
From
Finland.
Finland to Jerusalem by car.
Yeah, and
Seriously.
we came through Germany. We went to Greece, and we took a boat to Kos and Cyprus, and then continued with the boat. We had a tent on the upper deck, and we put that up. There was no other people with tents, and we were camping the whole trip. And our kids still remember that trip as something amazing. They look back to that. They had a great camping experience. My wife thinks it was a horrible trip.
Yeah.
But we had a blast.
Traumatized.
The rest of the family had a blast. And so.
Do you remember any particular episode on that trip? How long it took?
We traveled like 2 weeks to get here. We stopped at our friend's house in Germany. I remember something where I made a salmon soup for the kids on the roadside. We had a little, gas heater or gas stovetop or something, and or camping gas warming up thing. And I thought it was amazing, and most of my kids were throwing up after that, and so
Have you cooked
I thought it was fun.
Have you cooked salmon soup after that, or never again?
I mean, my wife is now doing the salmon soup. Okay. I'm not allowed to touch that food anymore. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you managed to come and to bring your family as well. But what's the first cultural shock that you had as you start living in Jerusalem 25 years ago, with your family, with your kids, with your wife?
I guess the language is always the first shock, where it's so hard. The letters, you don't understand anything when you start. Like, you can't read the letters. There is just a few international words that you can catch here and there. You can't read the newspaper and so forth. 25 years ago, there was no English TV programs. I'm not sure if there's today, maybe a few, but we were watching TV and we realized as a family, like 25 years ago, there's not one channel that is interesting. Like, we couldn't relate to TV at all. So we haven't had here TV ever since. We just decided as a family, we're not going to have a TV. It's not for us. Everybody agreed. That was one culture shock. Other one was, you went to a grocery store 25 years ago. All the labels were in Hebrew. There was not cell phones that had Google Translate, nothing like that. So you had to, you look at the shelf and, there's nothing here that, can I try the box? Like, what might be inside? But you understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
That it was especially all the flowers and all the milk products and so forth. You just had to almost like buy one and each and see what's inside when you get home.
It's much better now. It's much easier now than 25 years ago, I believe.
I mean, now you can go with Google Camera Translate and see everything translate. Of course, we speak now Hebrew, so it helps a lot. And I think when you come to a foreign land, one thing that I realized as we worked for the first 4 years in the Mount of Olives with Arabs is that the Jews and the Arabs here, they kind of put you in a category based on what language you speak.
Right, yeah.
And that's a kind of a thing where we had to learn some Arabic to become friends with Arabs. And the Jews evaluate you here based on if you speak Hebrew to them, and then everything is much easier. Like in the post office in Misrat Haponim, the Ministry of Interior and so forth, when you speak Hebrew, they you're their friend. Mm-hmm. But if you only speak English, like you're a foreigner, you're not supposed to be here, kind of a thing. And of course, during the war now, when you stay here, when there's a war, it speaks tons. Just yesterday, we had a owner of a company come to all the way to our car to tell my wife that we really appreciate you didn't run away. You're staying here with us. It really shows that you love us.
Yeah, that's an experience that many of us had. That's
Yeah.
that's a very good point. But now you are in the pastoral team of King of Kings. How do your connections with King of Kings started? Because you arrived, you said before that you didn't have any connection, any person connected to you from Finland to Jerusalem. So how did it start?
Okay, like I said, we started the first 4 years in the Mount of Olives. And how that started is that the ministry leader there, Tom Hess of Jerusalem House of All Nations, actually invited us, kept on begging us to come and work for him. It was, he really needed someone administrative. So we came there, and I worked as the assistant pastor there in the community, pastoring the staff of maybe 20 people in the beginning there. And Ulla was helping me in that process. She was pastoring the women and me, the man, mostly men, and so forth. And then we felt like that's it. We want to see the kind of the Jewish side of ministry, although they were working with Arabs and Jews and reconciliation and so forth. And then it was really kind of a struggle when you come here to Israel and you're sending organizations. They are looking for a purpose. They are looking for something that makes sense. They don't want to just send you go and do whatever you want. That's not the kind of way churches or congregations send people to a foreign land. And so for us, it was kind of a struggle because we felt like clearly after 4 years being here and then half a year in Finland, we felt like God is wanting us here in Israel, but we didn't know where. And it was very hard to communicate to our elder board in Finland that, we know for sure we, are supposed to be there, but we don't know what to do. And so they said they don't want to send us. And I said that, would you send us without money? And they said, no. Like, you need to know what you're going to do. And then Pastor Wayne Hillston actually, in a miracle timing, asked us to work here at King of Kings. We started with finances and doing other things. There was the pavilion here. We are next to the pavilion now. Yeah. We were able to help, because of my background, to set up the sound system, all the technical things here, and so forth. And that's how we started here.
Makes sense. And beyond, alongside your pastoral ministry, you also have a business over here. And in fact, the studio where we are here is also because of your equipment and your expertise over here. Would you tell us a little bit more about your business here in Jerusalem? What you're doing? What's your background?
Yeah. So audio, visual, audio, lighting, sound, video, like I said, are the kind of areas that I feel like have a little bit of knowledge. But when I came here 25 years ago, this whole area of knowledge and technical things in the believing community here in the land was almost next to nothing. There was no lighting operator that I knew of from any of these congregations. Not one good sound man, and video people, a few people with a camera making videos that are still doing that today, but it was next to nothing. So we knew that, the training we had in the past in Finland, or I had, was at a purpose. I was trained to train others here, And so we started the King's School of Media, which may be now starting again, by the way. It's amazing. But so we started training people and so forth. And we felt the importance on this dynamic. The company, however, that I run is also in the King of Kings family network. We have marketplace ministries that we do. So we want to be visible both on ministry and the marketplace, and we call them marketplace ministries, and we minister to those that we meet and so forth. The purpose of the business, though, is that we do help. There's a lot of tourists that come to Israel and locals that want to do events and have needs of video, sound, and lighting, and staging, and instruments, and translation, and it's a broad scale of services that we give to those events that we do in normal situation, about 100 events a year.
Wow. There is another aspect of your life here in Jerusalem with King of Kings about the humanitarian aid that you are doing. I found myself helping you at delivering some washing machine and tumble dryers around Israel to families that are in need. This is an amazing project that we are doing to people, and we've been involved helping Russians, so refugees, Ukrainians, and all sorts of people that are living here in Israel, but having no help, no support, nothing at all. And I would like you to spend a little bit of time explaining what we do also as a King of Kings ministry, but also that's an area also that you are leading, and you are doing an amazing job, I must say that.
Yeah, the social work that we do at King of Kings and Humanitarian Aid is really close to our heart. So when we came here, we had a little shelf in the King of Kings office where we handed out food to needy people. And that's how the food and clothing distribution center kind of came about. So we realized that there's so many people now coming to the office for this purpose that we actually need to separate that and make that a ministry, because we saw the need and how you can minister through giving food and clothing to people. And so we set that up downstairs. We have a big center today to hand out food and clothing. And then we started also the soup kitchen here with my wife. And so we were there doing the construction of that facility of the Tena room. We call it Tena room, where the Manna Soup Kitchen operates. Plus now we have this ministry of Redeemed in Zion. That's what it's called. The purpose is that there are struggling families here that are believers that feel like God has called them here, but yet they struggle financially. So sometimes a little encouragement there of giving them a house appliance at the time of their need is really an anchor that, okay, God did something, we have a place here, and it brings just such a joy. I remember a single mother who we helped with the washing machine. We took the washing machine there, and she said that she's been washing the laundry for 6 people for 5 months by hand. And she was just crying as we delivered the washing machine to her. And when you can touch people on that practical level, at the time of their need, people remember when someone responds to their, call of help in the time of need. And those are absolutely the best times always to minister to people, to respond to their needs. And we have that very close in our heart. And I believe you too, as you were delivering those. And we've helped, from Redeemed in Zion, we've helped over 1,000 families over 20 years period.
That's amazing.
And if there's maybe 20,000 believers in the land, these families are big. So we've touched the lives of almost half of the believing population, the born again kind of a Christian messianic population in the land through this ministry.
That's very powerful, and I think is the gospel of Yeshua and the gospel of the kingdom entering these houses and just showing love and compassion and the love of Yeshua. So that's for me is very dear to my heart. I will just spend the whole episode just talking about that, but we need to move on. Every time I interview somebody about the personal story, how they came into Israel and they accepted God's calling in their life, I know that we have a group of people, young people and youth, they are following us, a part of our audience. Do you have any advice for people that feel God's calling, but they are not living yet in that calling? Yeah, they are in that liminal space, in that waiting room before the fulfillment of God's calling, but they feel called by God. I believe you found yourself in that situation as you were telling us the story at the beginning of this episode. What's the advice, one advice you can give to them?
Yeah, I think the first step is very crucial. Absolutely, you many times you are thinking like you want to be at the destination, but you don't want to walk the path. You just want to jump there, and taking little steps of faith, starting to do those things that you feel God is calling you to do around you where you are now will lead you into the growth in faith and in ministry and in practice in so many ways to be one day at where you want to be. And the days of small beginnings are looked down in the eyes of many, and there's almost any ministry that God is calling you to do or to be involved with, you can start doing that today with the people around you, among the people around you, with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes you may have today, and you put those in practice, and that's what God is actually looking you to do in terms of showing that you're serious about your call in your life.
Very good. Last one. This is really the last one.
Oh.
Your the biggest lesson or revelation that you had moving from Finland here in this past 25 years?
The biggest lesson is really the vision for the Jews and Arabs, because when we moved here, we kind of, I told you about the miracles, how God changed our hearts and so forth. So it was like we wanted to somehow, this desire that we wanted to go. We didn't have a vision for the Jews or Arabs or anything like that. And it actually took 4 years before it went to, from the head level to heart level, that vision that fully that God has something amazing for the Jewish people in the future, and you want to give all you have to see them come to that fulfillment of prophecies and fulfillment and destiny of the Jewish nation. And so that was something revelational that God deposited in me. And then one, for the Arabs, I didn't have any vision for the Arabs, although I was working among the Arabs. But it was like they were people like any other people. We knew that as you're a pastor, you minister to anybody who you come across with. But there was this one prayer meeting that I was in at the Mount of Olives, and suddenly you hear these minarets, and you what they kind of sounded like was like a cry from the hell. And I felt like like these people have the desperate hell cry, and they need God. They need Yeshua. They need Jesus. And it went deep to my heart, like the desperity of their call for God. And since then, I've had this desire to see them also to come to a fulfillment, and I've been really happy to see hear about these stories from Gaza, how God is sovereignly revealing Himself to many Arabs, and we have some Arabs working.
Yes.
We have ministry at King of Kings, and it's amazing, really, to Sam as our Arabic outreach pastor is a good friend of mine. We are friends a long time ago, and great to see that happening.
Well, I think, Pastor Veikko, first of all, thank you for taking the time and coming here. I think that I've been blessed by listening your testimony, your story, and I believe that our audience will be blessed too. So thank you so much for your time. Please, if you agree with me, write down your comment, or we have an email address, which is podcast@kkm.network. Feel free to email all your questions, comments. I will be more than happy to read them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes, also Pastor Veikko would like to know some feedback. And our Instagram page, please continue to follow us and spam the video. Just put it everywhere on social network. We will be happy to reach as many people as possible. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Veikko, and shalom from Jerusalem.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Israelities Podcast. We'd love to hear your questions and comments at podcast@kkm.network. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. Shalom from Jerusalem.